It's going to be a tough night here for RRR as they try to prove themselves in their third match here. Starting off against BlossoM, an easier opponent than Mighty, who they started off with at the beginning of the season. So maybe they'll be able to make a dent here, G-Clef.
Yep, and right after that we have crazy matchup waiting for all of us. It's going to be L5 versus MVP Black coming up at match number 2. So today it's going to be packed full of all the heroes action that you want to see from Korea, for sure.
That's right. So MVP Black versus L5 will be the marquee matchup of the evening to round out this week of HGC Korea. So I know a lot of you guys have been looking forward to that, and it's coming your way very soon. So tell your friends about that matchup that'll be coming next, because I know most people are hyped about that one more than the first one. And first one should be a nice warm-up for you guys as you settle into the evening. So the Titans will clash, and that is going to be the big storyline for tonight. RRR as well, rumor has it they've been practicing more than most teams. They've been asking for a lot of scrims. They've been really hitting the custom games real hard. So we'll see if they've improved a lot this week.
Well, we can basically starting from the draft. We can see it, and Korea is the only region with Chogariels coming out. So maybe we'll see some Chogariels happening once more today. Who knows? We had 3 already within the past 2 days. I think it's likely to come out in certain battlegrounds once more.
I think you gotta call it Chogariel. Yeah,
yes.
That's the way it has to be. It has to be the same way as we do Volario and Guldario. So
that's right.
Chogariels are definitely a possibility to see. They will see. We've seen 3 now, and we'll see if RR wants to go down the path of the teams that have already run it. The worst one we've seen by far was definitely Ravens yesterday, but we'll see if we can see it was actually Ariel, not just the solo support Uther there.
Yeah, all the Team A's, and we've got to see some actions of Asmodan coming out yesterday also. And BlossoM, no chat once chose Asmodan too. And oftentimes Cursed Hollows. I don't know what's happening, but on that battleground it seems to be the most popular one. But here's the overview. It's exactly the same as phase number 1. Double round robin, of course. Part number 1, round robin for every team, and the part number 2 once more. That there's going to be Eastern Clash in between, and the final BlizzCon. That's what all Korean teams are looking for right now.
They actually want to, of course, kind of get back the title of best region in the world. That's the goal of most Korean teams. If you go back and read their interviews, watch their video opening interviews, that's the goal for all teams in this league, is to represent Korea and prove that the Korean Heroes players are once again the best in the world, because the title was stolen from them in Europe. Taken from them, I should say. It was very legit, straight-up play from Europe. Looked better than Korea, so Korea needs to tighten up and step up to the plate going into the end of the year.
Yeah, that's the goal that we heard from Rich himself. That he said we lost the title, and to the BlizzCon of 2017, we want to have that title back, coming back to Korea. So with the changed roster, MVP Black and also L5, that's going to be the bigger clash today. But starting things up, before that, let's take a look at the standings. Gale Force and No Tomorrow, actually. We still have lots of stronger teams climbing up too, but there are some hiccups in NAs and also in EU almost.
Yeah.
Dignitas already dropped the game. A series against Team Liquid, and they're in between, but of course you have to look into a lot of other matches. This is only the second weekend.
That's right, and when we see Korea in just a second, you'll see some remnants of that as well. I think after week 2 we'll have a lot better of an idea than we did in the first week as to which teams are going to be on top, but really we have to wait till week 3 to be definitive as to who are the top teams, and not can make assumptions based off of results on the previous split as to who would be on top, but you can't know for sure until the end of the season. So as it stands right now, Tempest is currently on top, but they've played extra games. Mighty will definitely pass them if they win a single additional set next week. MVP Black and L5, the winner of course will solidify their place in 3rd today, and for RRR and BlossoM, a win today for RRR would actually still put them behind BlossoM. They'd be 1 and 2. And BlossoM has more wins. Even if they get the 3-0, they won't change places, but you got to start somewhere, right? You got to take the wins where you can get them. And RR is currently technically above Raven because of their so far abysmal win rate. We'll see if RR does get 3-0 today. They'll be down there just 1 game below Ravens. So just talking about how standings could change today.
Yep, as we talked about the matchups, but the thing that excites me the most is, like, let's talk about, honestly, in phase number 1, we knew that L5 and Black was going to be top 2 for sure. And we were wondering who was top 3, the third one's going to be. But this phase, this season, we have no idea who's going to be on top at the end of week 5 or week 6. So I think that's very exciting as we go into today's matchup. This match, especially match number 2, will give us a hint who's going to be the top 3 within Korea a little bit more.
Yeah, I would agree. The L5 versus MVP Black matchup is definitely, I feel like in the past was L5 favored in phase 1, but in phase 2, I have to give the edge to Black from what we've seen so far. But L5 did have the reverse sweep against Tempest, so Tempest is a big up-and-coming player. Before, we thought it was just L5 and Black are leagues ahead of everybody else, but Tempest had a great showing. Mighty has also given some of these teams a run for their money, so really the top 4 in this league could end up being anybody. So that's the really exciting part about Korea is the shift. We've seen all of the roster swaps coming in. And here, of course, is BlossoM. Funny, this is the first time in Korean history, by the way, of Heroes of the Storm that we have had no teams with the same starting rosters as they had in the previous season. All 7 teams that remained in HGC Korea had different rosters than they did last time. Our 8th team is a completely new team in general. So you talk about roster apocalypse, you talk about the rest of the world. I was a big speaker outer about this, about how NA specifically changed their rosters too often. EU, a lot of roster swaps, but in Korea, this time they followed suit, and every single team is coming in with a new roster.
That's right. With this new roster and the new rookie on the houses, Gondar is Nubarak plays along with Stitches sometimes has been pretty decent, but against the stronger teams, of course, it was very tough. But against the weaker teams, he's been so solid in the front lines every single time. But the key player right now is Tutu, and notice that Chogao win in the last 5
That's
picks.
right. BlossoM was able to take a win off of MVP Black using the Chogariel pick. They tied up the series 1-1. They ended up falling and they lost the next game to Chogal being used against them by MVP Black. So that was the spark that started the flame of Chogariel, Chogalariel. So difficult to say here in Korea. And it was Dudu playing the Gaul. So he was the one who was playing that extra ranged mage DPS. And is definitely the key player for this team as Wiz has moved into the support role.
And he's been pretty crisp on all the cleanses, sometimes whenever the team needs, with the Ariels to strike onto the multiple targets. But on the other side, here is the new team of HGC Korea from the Open Division, RRR. Their new players, of course, EZZ, one of the star players, and also Kong. And before Lustboy, take a look on the right side of the screen that you just saw. He is a supporter, very, very aggressive team. First weekend, we saw their matches and we thought, okay, we could see some potentials, but they're just not completed yet.
Yeah, not yet, but you could see the drafting was pretty creative. RRR was the first team to use Kelthos in HGC Korea and in Phase 2, of course, and made it look really good. EGZ has a pretty narrow hero pool in general, but as you can see, 4 heroes already used in her opening matches. The Kelthos being 2 of the 5 picks, the one she's picked most here, being a Dragonshire specific pick for her most of the time. Her Liming and her Falstad were the other 2 heroes that she used. Those are really her main 3, which has already shown us some Vala, a little bit of Tychus, not as polished as the other heroes, but this is the player that we knew coming into this season might be the carry player for RRR. If she can step up her DPS and the rest of the players come and form around her, then we could definitely see some improvement. Kong, of course, being the shot caller of the team, and her boyfriend very publicly, so we'll see if they can make waves, make splashes, because so far it's been pretty flat, this team. They had a tough opponent in their first matchup, but BlossoM is definitely an easier one to tackle this evening.
Yeah, this one should be the one they should be going for, if the best for 3-0. Both sides, actually. They need to grab this win to actually climb up in the ladder, so this will be an important match for both of them for sure. And starting off, we are going into Infernal Shrines, a map chosen by RRR. They banned Cursed Hollow, and BlossoM banned Warhead Junction.
That's right. So we've been seeing a lot more Cursed Hollow bans. Actually, it's now approaching the most banned map in Phase 2 in Korea. It's number 2 currently, behind Warhead Junction. So We'll see if it actually gets to the top. I think the reason why we see so many bans on Cursed Hollow is teams have figured out that if they're not good at rotational play, and you don't think of BlossoM as a team that's good at rotational play, right? But when you see the skill gap between these two teams, it's easier to pick a map where the objective is a little bit closer to the lanes. You don't have to rotate very quickly. Macro play is not as important because those kinds of decision-making choices that you make are more difficult when you lack experience, right? The older teams will always have more experience in moments like those. So that's why I think it's been mostly banned by the weaker teams, the underdogs in series, and specifically banned against MVP, who's so good at that macro and the rotations, both MVP teams.
Yep, and that's the exact reason RR seems like they want to go in all the way into the Shrine and try to have the team fight instead of getting out macroed. So let's get into Infernal Shrines and look at the draft. BlossoM already considering, and there's a first ban on Nubarak. Just a solid tank with so much CC. Perfect tank for the dive comp right now. So ban instantly. It's saying you guys probably saw our Genji. If you are afraid of it, ban it. If not, you can open it. It's open.
Will be left open. The fear, of course, of leaving the Uther open is one of the counters to Uther in team fights is to cocoon him. So when a Nubarak's already taken away, if you leave the Uther up, it's scarier than the Genji sometimes when you don't have that Anubarak counter pick. Then we'll go right into the Stitches Grey main. Not the Malfurion to control supports, but rather the extra DPS.
Interesting, because Malfurion and all the other supports are open. Other than Uther, other than Auriel, if that comes out later. And BlossoM did play lots of Vala Auriel because Dudu is known for his Vala play since 2016 Super League. Going back to history, but without so much protection, and if they lose on Tassadar, that's the thing. Sometimes if they do not have Tassadar, Vala seems to be lacking the coming out of the meta because when Vala is very weak, without much protection, she can get blown up so many times, especially when there's Stitches against the other side. So they're considering lots of options here. If they pick Vala Auriel, Auriel's very weak, no cleanse. If she gets hooked, she's basically dead before 10.
Yeah, these are very valid concerns. BlossoM waits for this one for a long time. Gonna go ahead and take Malthael here with Karazim. So grabbing the support early. This shows that they want to be flexible later on in the draft to deal with whatever RR has planned with this. And, you know, this is a weird scenario where in a normal situation, I don't think you'd ever consider the Kael'thas ban, but BlossoM may be thinking about it here, knowing that Stitches, of course, will have that extra CC with the hooks. So, you know, we're very likely to see the Malfurion and the Kael'thas coming out here from the side of RRR, knowing how they've drafted in the past.
Illidan ban is a little bit strange to me. I was thinking more of Avatar or even Tassadar. Actually, BlossoM's gonna ban it out because Tassadar with Grey main and lots of support. Malfurion is still open, so the root combo with Arthas is available for RRR, which they have been doing a lot. But here comes Gleaming and Brightwing, a little surprising.
Yeah, definitely. So the Brightwing polymorphs can work with the Stitches hooks, but interesting that they would pick this now. It might be also their attempt to deal with the Genji play. They have a global hero with this. Not the largest map where you can get the most benefit from the global, but we'll see if Tekaluk can impress us on the Brightwing. It would be his first Brightwing of HGC, as we haven't seen it from him outside of the open division. I don't want to really doubt this pick, but there were other choices available.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
This is before the small buff onto the talent. That's
Yeah.
going to be next weekend.
That's right.
Which I think it's very significant, somewhat to Brightwing coming up. I think Brightwing will rise up a little bit because of that too.
The spell damage is
yes.
insane. So, all right. Well, BlossoM seems a bit puzzled by this. They definitely had picks pre-planned. They might have to shift their plans here a little bit. Looking for, of course, tanks right now. The Arthas seems to be the obvious one. It's going to be Diablo instead. And we will see the triple DPS with Malthael being the melee. So just solo tank Diablo. This draft already got pretty wonky. I think the Diablo pick is going to be partially to empower 7-sided strike. He's a great solo Shriner, and he's going to be very tanky in the late game. Or even, you know, whenever he has his souls. But in the late game, if he prevent himself from dying, he'll be very, very, very tanky.
Yeah, they needed very strong tanky front line, especially with Falstad pickup, because they have a lot of damage. Maybe after seeing Brightwing, they thought they had to really catch up in the global because the Haka is still available, but 2 tanks, maybe not so sure. So, and they already have Malthael, which is a very strong solo laner, so was not really needed. But Zagara!
All right, this is getting weird, G-Clef. So when you have Brightwing and Zagara, you have the double global with the the Nidus network. You have decent pressure with Greymane. He doesn't have any real empowerment here, though, with the solo support Brightwing. He's not going to be very powerful. You've got a lot of poke and siege with Greymane and Li Ming. Stitches can threaten the dive when you come in. You can look for picks. But the draft of RRR, just on paper, doesn't seem to have massive synergy going into this one. Whereas the draft of BlossoM, you've got the Diablo, you've got the Global, you have decent top-tier DPSs. So I'm liking the draft of BlossoM better, but we'll see how RRR executes this as we go into game number 1 on Infernal Shrines. In blue, it is Team BlossoM, Wiz on Karazim, Gondar on Diablo, Mora on Malthael, Dudu on Genji, and No Chat on Falstad.
And in red, RRR, Odok on Greymane, MSG on Stitches, EZZ on Li Ming, Kong on Zagara, and Tekaluk on Brightwing.
Well,
okay, this draft looks like the Hero League that I played a couple hours ago before coming here. When I was the Li Ming and there was a Zagara in my team also.
I watched one of your games where there was Tracer. You died a lot. Well, this draft is definitely pre-planned, you have to assume, but its purpose is not yet known. So Zagara will face off against Malthael in the top lane. Not a horrible matchup for Zagara, but it's Malthael, yeah. So she's going to lose. But she can poke him a lot. She can use her creep for some extra sustain. And she's not very tanky, so his trait doesn't impact her as much as it would on tanky heroes in the top lane for the solo lane. So it's not the worst matchup for Zagara. But beyond that, it's going to be probably for split pushing during the Immortal phase, where they're going to try to delay. With the cocktail build, you could steal away a lot of defenders. You have Stitches to look for hooks to try to delay, perhaps. But not super sold on it just yet. We'll see it in action as Dudu comes over here for the top pick as Kong overextended the lane. There's the Genji dash over the wall, and it will be first blood going over to BlossoM.
That's the thing. Zagara can be a little bit painful for Malthael because Malthael is still a melee. There's tons of damage going against the stronger solo lanes who are oftentimes melee. But when you go against Zagara, who's range and you can summon lots of stuff to harass your opponent in lane, that's when you overextend. Perfect timing of ganking from Genji coming out. BlossoM already off to a pretty good start.
Yeah. Bit disastrous already, I would say, for RRR as they lose all that top lane pressure. Zagara will be joining for this shrine. At least that's what it looks like here so far. So you do have the rotation in. No one's split soaking right now. It's just going to be the 5-man coming in. So all 4 reached for BlossoM just slightly faster, as we actually do have Mage Falstad coming out here. Interesting thing to note, not going to be the auto attack Falstad. Does go for hammer gains on 4 for a little bit of extra sustain, but goes into that extra Q here. So we'll have a little bit more damage scaling into the late game for AP, not AD. As you do see, this shrine is currently completely controlled by RRR because Falstad is split soaking the top lane. Not getting any extra stacks from this though, because he did go Q build instead of the auto attack, so it's not getting any season marksman. Will fly in here though for now the contest.
To get more minions on the shrines, they are losing in numbers for now because they are very strong, and Zagara is still actually picking up and hold on to that. The MSG is going to dive all the way in for the harass because they want the number, but still 3 more to go.
Yeah, they're not going to get it, I don't think. They're trying to use skill shots here to get the last few. 2 more! And they will just barely get it here at the end. They were pushed away. He did go in aggressively, didn't have an escape there. They will get the objective, but they lost a lot of EXP from Falstad soaking top. An interesting way to handle this, though, by BlossoM, because they didn't build the auto-attack Falstad, so they had him up there just soaking, which didn't really gain them much advantage. They had a level lead for scaling, about 4%, for just a moment, and then it was, given back to RRR. They had a lead for just a second. Couldn't actually win it anyways. I feel like if he was going to come to contest, he should have done it earlier. So, don't mean to be critical here, but RRR gets the objective now. And it was Falstad who was split pushing a little bit more than the Zagara we expected. Obviously, post 10, when she gets the Nidus network, that's where we're going to see a lot more of that.
And before Falstad hit 7 with the Wave Clear talent, Zagara with Infest and also Serrated Spines doing tons of damage and actually a kill onto Genji too. Dodog dove in with the Diablo charge, but gonna safely back away.
So this is gonna be a one push here in the mid lane with the Siege camp going in favor of RRR just briefly here. Mora does clear that out. Mora, of course, the former Tapus player, Modern Life. Just want to give that reminder, because they've already kind of moved away from calling him that because that's no longer his ID. So,
Bora.
Yeah, that's the new one. Same with Tekaloop down here, of course, the pro gamer formerly known as Lustboy. So, now level 7s on both sides. You can see potential invade here, actually. Gondar is on the Diablo, the Subway Diet Diablo, but did not decide to go in for the kill there. Just let this one go. They're going to clear it. Taking a safer move because they got the top pressure up there. So better not to take risks. Get an advantage from this. And this game is really going to be just passive laning right now. That was the only objective taken or available until this shrine. The shrine's going to be the turning point. This shrine will give one of these two teams a faster level 10. And that's really the big spike for RRR's composition. Even if they're planning on using Maw, which I highly doubt, that would make this even more important for them for the team fights. The Shrine is active.
Smart move by BlossoM to actually swap lanes with Falstad, because Falstad, of course, clears lanes so quickly, but hold on, the Kong will be caught, and it seems like it's going to be a kill too.
Now that is
slight overextension off the lane, and
Rippin'
that's a
Pepperonis.
Kill. And MSG gets caught over the wall too. What a great play coming out from Gondar, picking onto perfect targets.
Well, this is going to be a pretty rough start now. BlossoM will hit 10 before this shrine is even done. Sorry, a rough start for RRR. BlossoM will hit 10 before this is done. And that's because No Chat is split soaking the mid lane. Tekaloop down here is pushing the bot lane, will get them level 9, but there's no way they're ever going to have 10 in time. So they just have to back off and soak mid as well, being soaked now by the Greymane. So it's just a kind of a desperation move here for RRR after those picks to try to lick their wounds and recover. They'll lose a lot of HP on this fort. As you can see, the fort wall is already down. And we'll see how RRR responds. They'll have 10 for the defense shortly after the Punisher starts moving.
Yeah, they're soaking in all lanes so that they have 10 before this Punisher comes along to the first fort on top. And Brightwing can teleport anytime soon. They just hit 10 with Force, Bile Curse Bullet, and Zagara is holding it. It's Maw, actually.
Yeah, it's going to be Maw, so you can have, there's a lot of combos you could do with the cocktails and Li Ming.
Emerald Wind is here for against the dive. Here comes APOC, though.
All right, the APOC is a complete failure, actually. Mora's already taken a lot of damage. Here comes No Chat in for the Gust. Solo on EGZ. Nice targeting here by No Chat. That'll be the pick. Very well done. Just getting the solo Gust there. No escape, no support heroic here. When you just have Brightwing, there's no panic button. Only the cleanse that could have been used potentially there, but just not used quickly enough. And that is a win for BlossoM. We get the entirety of that fort. Nearly got to the keep wall, and they just extend their lead.
That was well done. And without the cleanse, of course, soloing on easy, there's the poke onto No Chat, but no follow-up, not even a poly too. It was well done by No Chat by flying in with the Gust from the other side. There was cleanse, and also, you can also maul when Falstad comes in alone, and Falstad can be the target right after. I think that may be the reason why Zagara went for the maul. Let's take a look a little bit more into the game and see what happens a
absolutely. Like, it's too early for us to say this is a failure yet, but it looks worrisome at this stage. And you know, we thought maybe we'd see split push Zagara. This is not the best map for it, but that's where she's normally used in the meta right now. Used in China more than anywhere else. We even saw that as far back as the Eastern Clash. The combo-oriented Ma playstyle was used by TNL exclusively in Korea back in the day, where they really thought it was good with Leeming. Hold that thought. Kong gets picked off on the Zagara, so this is topical. Uses the Ma here as well, a complete waste. Now, the reason why Kong is playing Zagara, if you remember, he's actually the tank player for RRR. He was once formerly the specialist player. He would play the Zagara, he would play the Sylvanas, he would play the Nazebo. So he's back to an older role for him. One of his best heroes back in the day. And I suppose that's why he's playing this, why they're trying to use them all, trying to make this combo work, leaving skill shots coming in the resets. You can have this amazing Bile as well, the Emerald Wind. In theory, you could see why this might work, but it has to work. The Maws have to be good. The Maws cannot be wasted dying solo in lane. And the trade-offs here are immense. No split pressure from the Zagara. There's no mobility for Brightwing. The extra healing is gone when you're solo support Brightwing. That's a problem too.
Yeah, even with all the if, I think BlossoM can hard counter it with some Palm. And with a single Palm and APOC, when all the heroics that actually has to be used perfectly in terms of RRR, and they're not really making that coming true at all right now. BlossoM is having the upper hand already, almost 2 levels ahead.
Well, RRR got a slight lead here, but here comes the Gust. This time it's going to be on MSG. No one nearby there. The cleanse in range to save EGG from the APOC. Gondar is getting pretty low, but here comes the Dragon Blade. This should turn the fight. Nice palm here to protect Gondar. And we do see a lot of damage coming out. Dragon Blade is now
he's on fire.
Dying.
Resets! Get all 3 resets with the kills though. Palm saved that for a second, but EZZ just positioned herself so well. And that Emerald Wind actually trapped them together, so all the Calamity damage hit, I think it hit all 3 of them together at the same time.
It did. And the Dragon Blade it started off good, but they didn't have enough to finish any of the kills, so it felt like it was just totally dead and wasted there. Looked like it was a good start, a good opener, but the end of the fight was advantage RRR. So finally they win a fight, not with the Maw combo, but as you said, with EGZ carrying, with the Calamity damage coming out. The Emerald Wind finally got value, the Bile, and they will actually win the Punisher with this. So
well
head into this. They need to get this fort to catch up in EXP, but it should be no problem.
They're pushing this fort because this is the only option. The top and the bottom are both.
Oh, the Gust though.
The Gust comes along. This is 3v5 and MSG is going to get caught. And hopefully he will escape with the cleanse.
And the Emerald Wind. Nicely played. And they get the extra speed boost there as well with the Pixie Dust. So they didn't actually commit to the fort hard, and the Gust was designed to punish that, but there were already members split off to soak. The Zagara was getting the top wave push EXP that was pushed really far because of the lack of the fort there. And then we saw Brightwing and the bot who teleported in. So they didn't get the fort, but they kind of evened up the EXP and they escaped that Gust attempt, which is the most important thing of all. Hook coming in here.
But all Diablo says thank you, and he has to teleport. APOC hits no one.
Yeah, looks like they will be able to successfully clear this cap. Ooh, that cocktail damage is real here. Gondar is going to have to back off. This will be our first time seeing Gondar on the Diablo, if I'm not mistaken. He's been playing mostly the Anubrok and Stitches.
That's right. And
with the one ETC game.
That was good because that also forced the flight off the Falstad too. So Zagara, and it seems like Brightwing is already on top lane, trying to soak up all the EXP. They caught up some EXP already with that win on the team fight and the camp. So overall, so much win, so much more positive things for RRR right now. All they have to do is just come back into one more fight and just make sure EZZ can have the carry, just like that before.
And this is a composition that if it wins the fights, it wins them really hard usually. Remember the last fight they won where they had the double was without the Maw. They had the Maw on top of all of that. It would have been disastrous for BlossoM, so they need to be careful. And it's important that Gondar does not die and lose his souls. If he gets the fast respawn timer, that's so much less significant oftentimes than losing the tankiness. So Diablo's insanely tanky. There's no way to really combat that on the side of RRR. They didn't build into any health pool designed damage. Like, the DPS, it does damage to larger health pools. I don't know, there's not a word for this, I don't think. But anyways, they don't have anything like that. They have giant killer type tech in their composition, so him being insanely tanky is very helpful for BlossoM. He can dive a lot harder.
Yep, that's right. And to dive a lot harder. There's gonna be the counter of Emerald Win, and that's exactly why they're going for it all the time. Seems like RRR is winning the numbers right now, and MSG is looking for that hook. Wiz more on the front line, has to be careful. Here's the APOC. Great cleanse, so Liming survives.
Okay, you can see
cocktail damage. There's a kill already.
Yeah, I said there wasn't any percent based damage, but you look at that cursed bullet coming in, and that's the part that was glaringly missing from my blind spot. Is that is going to do a ton of damage to Gondar. This is going to be another one team fight here for RRR. They will take this Arcane Punisher, and this is going to be the 5v3 push now. The long death timer is coming out for Gondar, who didn't quite have max souls just yet. That's in one way a boon for him, because when he respawns he will be very tanky, but on the other hand annoying because he's not here for the defense to threaten. You are seeing No Chat split push. Tekkaluk goes over to meet him, but it's very important that BlossoM defends this keep, and they should very likely be able to. Look at the percentage-based damage coming out here from Mora, how much they're already able to do to this Punisher.
That's the thing, and Diablo lost all of the stacks, so he will be weaker in the front line, less tanky for sure. They actually get the keep, and actually going for the kill, he misses it with the deflect due to barely survives.
Also, Falstad came in very late, is potentially looking for a gust now, but it's too late. No Chat got greedy in the top lane to get the extra soak there. Didn't come in to protect the keep, to prevent that keep from going down. So some miscommunication on the side of BlossoM here as to how dire that situation was going to be. Then he comes into the fight way too late after everyone had already retreated, so wasted his flight. Now has to take the slow road back to the top lane if that's where he wants to go. And RRR takes a massive advantage, and they are very close to getting to their first win in HGC. This has been their best game so far. With such an unusual composition, it's funny that this is the one that they might be able to finally win.
Even Gondar, all they need is the perfect palm. Lots of pressure actually onto Wiz, because without the palm, EZZ will get the reset, and that's exactly what RRR is looking for. Even the sport will be pushed, and they will be very close to 20, so BlossoM is not going to try to contest here.
Well, 20 around the corner. What's BlossoM's play here? You can see Falstad is already trying to push the bot wave so that the catapults aren't pressuring at all. Already met here by Tekkaluk, but needs to be very passive or he will find himself losing a 1v1 against the Falstad very quickly. So 20's locked in here now. And Fury of the Storm for Zagara. Upgraded Emerald Wind, which already has had quite a bit of impact on these team fights. Could definitely be used as an extra disengage or the initiation, depending on how the fights go. And 20 is still a pipe dream for BlossoM, trying to get into this one. Falstad was split soaking bot. He's actually left. I think he's up here in the top lane now. As we head towards this, they're about to get it though. RR just going to take their own camp before the shrine, so they gave a lot of room here, a little wiggle room to BlossoM. The one thing I do like that RR has done with this advantage is take Brightwing in the bot lane to push those catapults out. EGD's being dove upon here. There's the poly. He'll be fine. But that bot wave is now more annoying because Tekkaluk was down there prepping it so hard.
Yeah, and without the keep, it will be pushed in. Better for RR to take the Punisher, of course, but all they have to do is stall time here. Just make sure BlossoM doesn't get the minion as they want to, and make sure the bot lane is so far pushed all the way into the core, so they will have the pressure onto the, and target is again onto EZZ. The Liming escapes once more. The
cleanse was good here, but look at this gust. Once again, No Chat is just going to isolate everybody here. Oduk just narrowly survives. Mora not in range here. The palm is real though from Wiz. He saves Gondar, who's still insistent about coming out. Actually bolts away there. Not technically a bolt, but basically a bolt. It's the version that Diablo has where he drops out an APOC circle on his bolt out. He gets away, so scrappy fight, and somehow nobody dies. But RRR, the EGD surviving there, they end up more healthy. They go back a tap here. Remember, the longer this fight goes on, as long as no one dies for RRR, that bot push is getting really scary. Emerald Win here, going down right now. Everyone's very low on the side of BlossoM. They were not willing to give this up.
Not go in. Zagara is lost, but the other three down there cannot contest here. And EZZ is looking for the kill with the Calamity, teleporting in.
She's a target again. No cleanse.
No cleanse this time. Barely survives again.
Yeah, but this is now a one fight for BlossoM. They've already sent No Chat down to deal with the bottom wave, so the advantage that RRR had because of that bottom wave is now negated. As Falstad is going to look to fly back in here. He has Epic Mount now, so he can be there a lot faster. He's even going to push out the mid wave right now. An interesting choice, because RRR is only 9 defenders away right now of dealing with this. The pressure is getting back to the core once again. RRR is just not going to let this, they're not going to contest this because they know that they can defend. They've got a lot of siege damage on their side to deal with this Punisher. Better safe than sorry. If they go in and get wiped, they lose the game. And they had a disadvantage. Zagara's still 10 seconds on the respawn timer. They have the advantage with the keep pressure. And worst case scenario for them, this Punisher equalizes that in the top lane. So there's just simply no reason to go in and contest. Would have been a fool's errand.
That's right, they were waiting for Zagara, as with Zagara, minions will do a lot more damage to take the Punisher, but this will be very likely to be keep, and they keep on forgetting how Falstad will be coming around from the side. They have to position onto the far side together in the way so the Falstad cannot gust them and isolate the entire team. Let's see if they can do a better job of positioning this time.
Okay, the Punisher is already on this keep. You see the magic missile's not connecting here. Good dodges by BlossoM. They're far enough away that they get the easy dodge, and they don't get the keep. Damage it only slightly. That's best case for them, and that's best case for RRR, of course, and that is going to maintain their advantage. Look at the bot lane, man. Again, oh, Mora gets caught. This is actually possibly game ending. Look at the bot wave. He actually got his 20 where he makes the gambit where he gets the instant respawn. So I didn't know he actually picked that. I didn't check. So that's actually not going to be game ending. So he gets the instant respawn. His next death, though, will have an increased death timer, and that is a big problem. So still a nice pick here for RRR, but not game ending. But the bot pressure had to be dealt with. Everyone rotated down. Oduck and EGD with a risky rotation down. They know everyone's here, and they're still willing to do this. A very scary call. They escape with their lives. That was a risky choice. As you can see, everyone's collapsing on them right now. They just barely got away. Had BlossoM actually gotten a pick or two there, they could have turned this around. Still clear out the wave, though. Unfortunately, you know, they're going to have to send Falstad down to deal with now the Siege Giants, or the Siege minions, the Impalers, and the Catapults. It's actually a pretty close game still. It's crazy how hard BlossoM is holding on despite that deficit of the keep early on.
Falstad is looking for the angle as he is not pressuring too far into the top lane, because he knows that if he gets caught, it will be a game changer. It may cost the entire game for the team. So, and he does have Epic Mount, so he can go around and clear the camps quickly and pressure all the lanes. I think he can also go for the bot pressure this time and go around. Never mind, the Shrine is going to be spawning at the bottom. And they're timing this camp so that they will get the camp when the Shrine happens.
So Falstad's going to look for the top pressure instead. And this is actually really nice for BlossoM because it's the camp that they have that they can clear with the global of Falstad. That's the opposite side of where the Punisher is, and the Punisher is where they need to clear the wave of the Catapult minions. So this is twofold, a really nice spawn for BlossoM.
Yeah, that's right, but if they lose on this one, it will go straight to the core, so it may actually be end of the game if they lose on this one. So they're going to go get an early start, it looks like, but they're losing in numbers actually because of all the pokes.
Oh, Dudu gets caught here, but Genji gets away. But you're exactly right, it could be a double-edged sword here if they end up losing it. Falstad's going to have to come in soon. He's continuing to pressure the top lane. Looks like he's setting up for that flight in. Here it comes. Who's he going to look for the gust on? Doesn't go for the one on MSG here. Wants a juicier target. Wants to get EGD if possible. Just looking to clear out some of that creep. Here comes the APOC as they go in.
The ball misses, but MSG Dudu is very low, and they're looking for the kill, but Mora comes in for the rips.
A ton of extra damage coming out with those rips coming over. Gets those heals up too. Still a very close Shrine here. This could be the game-winning Shrine for RR, as you said. 9 away here, make it 8. Here comes Gondar in. He wants to come in. He's already polymorphed. He gets taken out. It's a double, and EGD is going to carry this fight now. The reset's coming in. 2 dead on the side of BlossoM. Diablo comes in. He's less tanky, though. He's lost all his souls. Make it 3, and that's an 80-second death timer now for Malthael. This will likely be game for sure. No way BlossoM holds this. They don't even have Gust for 20 seconds. So that was the fight they needed. And this looks like RRR will finally take their very first game in HGC Korea. It's been a long, hard road for this team who struggled didn't even win in promotions, came in because GG disbanded, and now they're finally able to take that first step, take that first game. As the Punisher hits the core, desperation here for BlossoM. The Gust comes out. Punisher's already on top of no chat here, though. Can they make the miracle hold?
Ice Block used. Emerald Wind will not be back in time, and driving will be gone, but the core is going down 0%. And first win, the very first win, going for RRR. What a well done play. The counter to the dive is Emerald Wind. That was the key, and that's exactly why the camera was on Take a Look right after the game.
Good Emerald Winds there, and the upgraded Emerald Wind as well gets pretty nuts. So HGC with really good positioning overall. When the dive came in, the Emerald Winds were there to save her. The cleanses were pretty good too. And once she played a little bit more back, a little bit more defensively, you could see Zagara actually does a lot of DPS in team fights, starting to scale up later on into the late game. And the Maws were not the game changers. So you could almost argue that if she took Nidus, they might have even had more split pressure. But still, the Zagara pick was an unusual one. Definitely were other picks out there they could have picked over this one. And you can't say the reason they won was the Zagara, especially when you consider in the early game, Kong died 4 times in lane. So that was not the reason. The reason was the Brightwing pick, as you said, the extra denying of the split soak, the extra pushing that Brightwing did in the bot lane when they had that catapult pressure, pulling no chat back. Really good decision-making is overall on the side of RRR.
Yeah, I think Maul, though it did not catch too many, I think the reason was to catch a lot of the enemy when they dive in, when the Emerald Wind hits them, so they're all together, to trap them all together, so that HGC can do maximum damage with the Calamity onto multiple targets. It did not happen, but Emerald Wind was enough to counter all the dive. And Zagara did have a pretty good laning. Malthael was very strong on lane, so she did go all in lane talents to upgrade her auto attacks, upgrade the minions. So I think it was worth it overall.
Yeah, I think the early game, despite the picks, was okay. I wouldn't say it was good, and I think there were definitely other options available, but you could see what their idea was, and it was executed at a passable level. So maybe we see more Zagara in the future. I don't think so, but at least we got to see it once, and we got to see it used in an old, like, 2015, early 2016 spring season-esque fashion. So that's always cool to see old heroes come back and be played in different ways.